Welcome back to the Mina Show featuring Lenny, only NFL podcast. One of the hosts thinks yak is what happens when he breaks into the Halloween candy. That's Lenny. I'm Mina Kimes. I'm trying to decide if this is too gross. I'm going to say it anyways. I just took him for a walk, and it resulted in me seeing a Halloween candy wrapper on the sidewalk.
Yep,
That's what. Yeah,
that's every dog owner. That's we're all used to it at that point.
I appreciate the wrapper, I guess. That's Ben Solak, who is here to help me preview an incredible slate of games. Whew, week 11. Week 11 showed up. In fact, it's so incredible that amidst all the Seahawks-Rams craziness, I think like the fact that the Lions and Eagles are playing has kind of been lost in this. I mean, there's a few really, really good games. Buffalo, Tampa is another one. We pick all the games, we preview all the games. I actually need this pod to decide who I'm picking because some of them I've gone back and forth like 20 times.
I have 3 games I'm open on, which I've like never walked into a pod with more than one before. It's a very, very hard survivor week, which is the best thing I can say about an NFL slate. Like everything feels tight. It's cool.
One of those games I'm sure is Patriots Jets, right? On Thursday Night Football.
We might be looking at a 14-point spread by kickoff. This is getting nasty.
13 now. Are the Pats that good? Or are the Jets that bad? It's the Jets. It's funny because I do these top fives and the Pats haven't been in the top 5, and I watched them against the Bucs and I thought, oh, I want to put them in the top 5. Maybe this week I'll get the case, and then I saw they were playing the Jets, and that's not really going to help me with information. So this is my game. So every week we go over all the games for those who don't know, and one of us picks a key or both of us pick keys for the good games. This one is just me. I wrote, can the Jets pressure Drake May enough to make it interesting? That's the best thing I could come up with here. For a couple of reasons. One of which was the Jets in their glorious win over the Cleveland Browns actually pressured them like crazy. We'll get to the Browns-Ravens games and the Browns offensive line and state of the offense there. But Will McDonald went like nuts on them.
And having a 4-sack game in front of Myles Garrett has to be a great feeling as an edge rusher, right? And he's on the other sideline, you're doing that. That's a good feeling.
Yeah, I know. It's like when Nino like tumbles on his own and looks at me and I'm like, oh, you think that I'm the master tumbler because I did it once in front of you. Weird analogy. That's my child. But it's also, so watching Drake May against Tampa, he was predictably incredible, but he was under pressure a lot. And some of that has to do with, I think, Tampa. They've got like legitimately good edge rushers, and they also have really cool pressures and weird designs. And Todd Bowles like threw the kitchen sink at him in that game, both in the front and the back. It was a really, really good Todd Bowles game, I thought. But my point is Patriots offensive line, as much as we've praised them this year as terms of being an improved unit, they're still not great. And May is making a lot of these plays under pressure, and he's been awesome under pressure, but it's still not ideal for your quarterback. I posted screenshots. The 3 biggest throws he made in that game were all with either like Diaby or Levante David basically sitting on his face. So anyways, for me to make this interesting and muck it up, and obviously that's what New York has to do, it really just starts with the pass rush.
Yeah, I really do like New York's defensive ability to make this game trickier and uglier than you might expect otherwise. Patriots have confirmed there's no Ramondre Stevenson for this game. There's no Kayshon Boutte for this game. Those are 2 of their best, like, consistent answer players. I know Boutte's been used downfield, but like the 1-on-1 on the outside, the back shoulder, the comeback has been like a 3rd and 5, 3rd and 6 answer for them. And Stevenson's been the engine. For a different team, like for a 500 win team that was kind of good, kind of bad, I'd be standing on that Bucs game for the Patriots and going, oh, cool, 3 explosives in a 24-point outing. Like you had a 71-yard touchdown, a 62-yard touchdown, a 55-yard touchdown, I think it was. Like, I know that model. That's not serious. You can't do that every single week. Yeah. The Patriots are 8-2. They've earned the benefit of the doubt. But without Stevenson, without Boutte, with some of the injuries, and then, like you say, the offensive line being more of a average unit, which is a big improvement on last year, but not necessarily, great overall. This is a bit more fragile of an offense right now than we've seen in the past. And then you'd like to be bringing into a Thursday night divisional game, which tend to be very, very close. The thing is, like, the Patriots' run defense is the strength of their defense, and the Jets, if they can't run it, can't move the ball. So it's kind of null and void. But still, Pat's offense, I agree. Like, with your top 5 power rankings comment, it's a little bit hard to get them over that line right now.
They're very close. They're very close. But I obviously picking them to win this game, for the Jets offense doesn't need to be discussed. Get really quickly though, because I feel like I always talk about Drake May and the Patriots offense. I've spent very little time talking about the Patriots defense. The run defense is exceptional. I think they have good DBs. They've had some ups and downs, but I still feel pretty confident in that unit. If you were an offense, just setting aside the Jets, what would you attack if you were facing this Patriots defense?
Yeah, so I think Carlton Davis is the corner two, and I think he's a solid corner two. He the age is showing up a little bit, right? And they play a decent amount of man coverage, and
The game
so
before last week, somebody got him good, and I was like, ooh, a few times. Was that Rams?
Falcons,
Yeah, there's a few
yeah.
plays in that I was like, ooh.
So Tez Johnson, who, by the way, new number one favorite NFL player in the world is Tez Johnson. This is the first good player who's been my weight in NFL history. I'm thrilled about the Tez Johnson breakout. I'm not including Tank Dell. Like, this is better than Tank Dell.
Devontae Smith that much heavier than Tez Johnson?
He's a good 10, 15 pounds heavier than me and Tez Johnson, according to NFL Combine measurements. Tez came into the Combine like 157, Mina. Like, we're talking like, this is an average man. Not an average NFL, like an average man.
He weighed in at 154 at the Combine. Wow.
Yes. We are a level below Devontae Smith density.
Yeah.
Not density, but weight in Tez Johnson. That's
really
what
Devontae's so tall, though. He looks skinnier.
But they both have the same thing, which Tank Dell did not have, which is that like contact hits them and they look like they're in a car crash, and then they just bounce off the ground and jog back to the huddle in preposterous ways. Regardless, so I think you're not like Christian Gonzalez is not having the same season he had last year. And I think Carlton Davis is also taking a little bit of a step back. Gonzalez is coming off the very long hamstring injury in training camp.
He's still good.
Yeah, he's still
really
good.
Fine. They're Marcus Jones. Yeah. Really good.
So some of the outside guys are gettable in isolation, and then the linebacker core to me is the big issue in coverage.
Them, don't run on them. Yeah, that was my note for Tampa.
The Patriots have played. Everybody's talking about how easy the schedule is. If you look particularly at the offenses they've played the 5 worst offenses, literally 28, 29, 30, 31, 32 by EPA per play and by points per drive in the league this year. Like, this defense is good. It is also not as good as it has been made out to be, and that's because of strength of schedule.
We talked about whether or not like Drake May would have an MVP, like a signature game. So he's got like Island. He has the Giants at night, and but as far as like a true test, I'm looking at the Ravens near the end of the year. Learn a lot about this defense, I think, in that game as well. Okay, let's move on. You have the privilege of picking a key for Commanders Dolphins
in Madrid too, as well. Another 9:30 a.m. game.
Did not know that. Yeah. Really, Madrid.
I'll be very honest. I took a pretty large position on Dolphins -2.5 early in the week because I was like, oh, Dolphins home game again, and like Tua's much better in Miami, and then people point out to me like, no, this game is in Spain. I was like, oh, okay.
I have no idea.
Yes, so the game is in Madrid. You want some Commanders defensive stats? You want some some fun stuff? 3 of the best 5 passing games this season by first down plus touchdown rate have all been against the Commanders defense. It was Jared Goff and Sam Darnold, which, okay, fine. And also Michael Penix had one of the 5 best games against this Commanders defense since week 6, in which the Commanders have played a stretch of quite good offenses. But still, they are 31st in EPA per play and EPA per drive and downset conversion rate and points per drive, only kept out of 32nd by our Cincinnati Bengals. Thank you very much. Dan Quinn announced this week he's taking over defensive play calling from Joe Witt Jr. I do not think that is going to have an effect on anything. I know that Commanders fans have liked to vilify Witt Jr. to this point in the season, but I tell you, I watched that defense. It looks just like a Dan Quinn defense to me. He's not like Witt's doing something different than Quinn wants to have done there. And so I don't anticipate a big change. The key for this game is going to be speed and space for the Dolphins offense against the Commanders defense. Commanders are once again 31st in yak given up over expectation, yak per reception in the league, only kept out of 32nd because of our Cincinnati Bengals. They are giving up the 5th highest explosive pass rate the Commanders are through a team's first 10 games in the season. Like, this is a game for Tua to get the ball out fast, to Waddle and Achane on the move, and then you challenge this extremely banged up and beleaguered Commanders back 7 to make tackles. They haven't done it to this point in the season. They're probably not going to start now.
Dan Quinn taking over defense after they play Lions is almost funny as Dan Campbell taking over offense the week they play the Commanders. Head coaches know how to time these decisions.
Look at the schedule, baby.
Yeah, I mean, like the Commanders, I think they have many weaknesses, but they just cannot stop runs off tackle. And this kid, Devontae Achane, not a kid, but he's pretty damn good at that. So I do not love this matchup for Washington at all. I definitely lean Miami. Really quickly on the subject of Miami, though. So they're 3-7. This is not a playoff conversation. I'm not crazy, but you got the Commanders, the Saints, the Jets, the Steelers, the Bengals, Bucks, Pats to end. Mike McDaniel job saving streak here potentially. Those final 2 games being hard is gonna be tough because if they get the teeth kicked in by the Bucs and the Pats, that could be hard finishing bad. But there's a lot of potential wins on the schedule.
I want to say they were 2-6 last year, and they won 3 in a row. They got to 5-6. They were kind of like, oh, playoff push, and then they had that cold game against the Packers, and it was no good. Yeah. I will say Mike has, for the second year in a row, impressed me in terms of what he has changed on the offense, right? They're getting more outbreaking throws, to his rolling out and booting and throwing on the move a little bit more, and they're relocating the pocket better. I think the running game wise, the investments in some of the young players, the offensive line have gotten their feet under them. Jonas Evanai is playing a little better than he was. Patrick Paul is playing good football right now. And so, again, I think like Mike does good stuff on Sundays. A lot of it is like the Monday to Saturday issue, and sometimes the styles make fights issues, but they are and have always been very, very good against bad defenses, right? Like they played the Ravens and the Browns in the last 4 weeks, got absolutely decimated. But in the middle, they played, they played the Falcons, right? And they're playing the Commanders. They had the game against the Chargers, right? They had 2.45 points per drive. So like they can play the bad defenses and beat them, and they're going to do that again this week.
Some really creative run designs against Buffalo that really just completely ruined the days of many Bills defensive players. Okay, so we're both on Miami. I have Panthers, Falcons. The good games are all backloaded outside of Tampa, and so. But,
yeah.
Actually, we're doing 2 of the morning ones at least. I want to talk about Bryce Young. It's time to talk about Bryce Young because I haven't talked about him. Talked about the Falcons a lot, and the Panthers. I've made it a point to not pick Panthers games and to just stay away from them. They are every year. There's like a radioactive team for me. Radioactive in sense of like I just do not feel like on any given Sunday I know if this team and this has been the Carolina Panthers for me. You just never know what you're going to get from them, right, week to week. But one thing that has been consistent over the last month and a half or so is if you stop the run, Bryce Young is not able to beat you. And going back and watching some of his struggles this past week against New Orleans, and it was a really rough watch. Because New Orleans played single high almost the entire game, right? Mm-hmm. And he was either not seeing the middle of the field or he was short arming it to the outside. He struggled with pressure a lot. And it just felt like weeks 1 through 2 Bryce Young of last year before the comeback. I think the thing that jumped out to me is the paradox is this. He is, because of his size, does not see the middle of the field well if you can muddy things up. But because his arm isn't super strong, he is not particularly accurate throwing outside the numbers deep. Mm-hmm. So it's like cool. What you need to create throwing lanes for him over the middle field. And then it works. He's accurate. He can, but if you could take that away, it's really tough. And I think Atlanta will be very aware of that and will, execute a similar game plan. And I'm just not, I think this is a really, really important game for him because as we head into the back end of the season, this to me is going to set up the stakes for what happens this offseason. And if he plays like he has the last few weeks, there's no doubt in my mind they need to seriously consider moving on or bringing in competition.
Yeah. So this is a team that clearly wins in spite of their quarterback, right? And this is, I think, a difficult thing to talk about because last year it was very easy to author a narrative that they were not winning in spite of their quarterback because Bryce Young had like 3 or 4 hero throws, right? He had that Eagles game that should have been game-winning drive, Xavier Legette in the end zone. He had the Chiefs game.
It wasn't. I dispute that. There were games. I actually thought he was good for. It wasn't just a few hero throws in the Eagles game. Like there were games last year where he was a much better quarterback than the guy we're seeing.
So I agree with that, but the thing was like last year he was if I'm remembering the numbers correctly, he was 31st in on target rate and 4th in completion percentage over expectation, which is just that for the way that he was playing, the scales were so dramatically tipped towards when he gets a catchable ball out there into a tight window down the field against pressure. These are just being caught at a disproportionate rate, and that was a credit. And there were drops, right? There was a Legette drop and there was a Coker drop. So if you wanted to like you could get there on, the offense is failing him and he's taking a step, so on and so forth. I think that was a reasonable thing to be like, all right, is he turning this corner? Is this coming around?
Right.
But because they had that game against the Eagles who went on to win the NFC and that game against the Chiefs who went on to win the AFC, like best performances against top competition, late in games, fourth quarter, it just got magnified. It got ballooned to the point of like, man, Bryce Young is here. And that just like, to me, it wasn't borne out in film or numbers last year. You come back to this year, firstly, just the completion percentage of our expectation is plummeted, right? Which is just kind of a regression thing. That's what you expect. It should go back down to 0. And then if you remember in the beginning of last season, they wanted to throw over the middle of the field more. It wasn't working well. He had the benching. He comes back. They're kind of, radioactive middle of the field. They're not going to touch it. This year they walk out. They're not really throwing middle of the field. And they're trying to reintroduce it. They're putting more routes there. Jalen Coker's come back. They're trying to get him activated there. And it's just every time they try to drop it back into the offense, you get tipped balls, you get interceptions, right? The DeMario Davis should have been picked. It was called back for roughing the passer. And then you have to wheel it back and you have to start throwing just timing routes to the outside again. And that's just not a way to live in the NFL. It's too simple. It's not deep enough of a passing game. You're not hitting enough areas of the field to really scare good defenses.
The Falcons just got ran through by Jonathan Taylor, but they were, and this is not to take away from Taylor, but they were, they were really trying to take away the pass in that game. That's not going to be the case here. I think they're going to watch the Saints tape and I would take a similar approach and say, dare Bryce basically to beat you. And this is it, man. Like, I do feel like this is kind of like potential. It's for Atlanta too. I mean, this is huge, obviously, because if you don't, I feel like the playoffs are just going to really fall out of, they're going to lose their grasp on even hoping for it. But for me, the stakes for Carolina aren't the playoffs. This is not a playoff team to me. This is just Bryce Young. These are the stakes here. You got to even have a chance next year. I'm taking Atlanta, even though, I like I said, I don't like picking Panthers games. Atlanta's another team that I like don't. I think with Atlanta, it often comes down to offense and styles make fights because they have such a specific style. And if you can take away a couple of things that they do well, they really, really struggle, as you've seen. But it's funny because it's like, when do we have the conversation about Penix? We'll put that for another day. Yeah. Today's Bryce Day. He's
only started 11 games, Penix has. I wrote about him this week, and I was kind of ready to be like, all right, here we go. And I was like, oh, that's right. Like, you started 3 games last season. Like, you're not even through your first full, year of worth of games. I very much like the Panthers to win this game. I really do.
Really?
I think the Falcons' run defense to me it's not at a point where like, oh, we don't respect the pass, so let's be able to put the bodies up there and we'll solve it with math. They're just too light. They are just too small. This is the worst run defense in the league when you put multiple tight ends on the field, which is something that the Panthers do a lot of. The Panthers have also one of the bigger offensive lines in the league. They're very, very good moving you off the line of scrimmage. Like, it is just the hope is that potentially the Falcons are going to get some help back defensively, but we haven't gotten Wednesday practice reports from them yet, so we don't know if Divine Diablo is going to return to this game or not. It's just a weight class thing where if the Panthers get a lead in this game, they're going to be able to control the clock. Penix, I do not think is good against Giro Evero style defenses. It's a blanket thing. You got to throw underneath. You got to dink and dunk. You got to be accurate. It's just not his game. Like, this is the biggest game of Raheem Morris's 10 years of out. They're 3-6. They got embarrassed by this team 30-0 last time they played. Like, you got to step up for this one. And I'm just worried because stylistically, I don't think they match well at all.
You think that anyone can stop Drake London on this defense?
J.C. Horn, baby. I mean, J.C. Horn. The numbers were great and the film was great. And then Chris Olave caught like a 70-yard catch and run touchdown on him. He fell down. He tripped. JC's having a nice season, I believe.
All right. Well, good. We're split. I like it. It's good that we're not on the same page in every game. Bucks Bills this is the hardest game for me to pick, actually. I have really struggled with this one because there's a lot of things I like about Tampa from a matchup perspective in this game. But it's so hard for me to imagine the Bills putting up back-to-back stinkers. You go first. I'm on Buffalo, so I'll get to what I think. I have a feeling I know what direction you're going to go with Tampa, but let me hear it.
Have you looked at the line real quick for this game, the spread?
I'm looking at it right now.
Bills are 5.5 favorites.
That's crazy. We go straight up here, but that's Tampa. Oh my God. 5.5? That's crazy.
Which I also took with a lot of surprise. There have been people who have taken Bucks bets. Lines has not moved, which is very, very odd. Regardless, key to this game for me, if you're the Buccaneers, is you got to be able to get the Bills into 3rd and long, right? The Bills are at their best when they can run the football, and then Josh can win in the quick passing game and in the screen game, and they can throw to these tight ends. This year on 3rd and 7+, Mina, Josh Allen has he's 21st in success rate. He's 18th in first down and touchdown rate. He is leading the league in time to throw. he has a sack rate of 21%. It is 39 of 41 quarterbacks, his sack rate. Last year, on 3rd and long, he had a sack rate of 4%. He has quintupled his sack rate from last season. And a big part of the reason why is because the Bills are getting blitzed into oblivion on these passing downs. They've certainly played Falcons and Buccaneers, and some defenses are going to skew those numbers a little bit, but it's 50% of the time on these long and late downs. Why is that happening? Because we think that we can press your wide receivers off the line of scrimmage. We're not too worried about it, right? The Bills don't right now have the ability to open receivers well down the field schematically. A lot of their, okay, we're going to send a guy in motion to throw it to him, and we're going to have him off line of scrimmage and run a little rub route. It all happens within the line of scrimmage or back, right? It's these Ty Johnson throws behind line of scrimmage, these Khalil Shakir throws behind line of scrimmage. And it's just, okay, like, you're going to get us with a few of those, but eventually we're going to get a tackle. The Bills put 5 in the concept more than any other team in football right now. So you're always protecting with 5. And if I send blitzes, I get free runners. And Allen's just not breaking sacks the way that he has in previous seasons. So this is on an early down game, on the early downs in this game, I want to be run blitzing. The Bucs, gave up 2 huge explosive runs to Travion Henderson. If you look at the underlying numbers, like, Henderson had a 28% success rate running the football. I don't think the Bucs run defense is broken. I think they busted a couple of plays. So I expect them to still have a good day against James Cook, get the Bills consistently into these 3rd and 6 pluses, and then you go ahead and you send the rush. You worried about the run defense? You think
a little bit. I was watching the Henderson runs. I think you can get them off tackle and on sweeps and such. I don't think you can run up the gut, which is Buffalo was very good at. I just think Tampa's too good against that. But when they got Henderson out onto the perimeter, he was able to use the speed. And I think James Cook's capable of that, but that's not my key here. Mm-hmm. I just wrote Josh Allen played the fastest you have all season. This is,
a very good
note. Allen's 3 fastest time to throw the seasons. 2 of them are his best games in EPA per dropback. One was the Chiefs. One was the first game against the Dolphins. I feel like a broken record here, but we know with Tampa, you want to attack the backers. I'd love to see Cook, Shakir get activated not on short throws to the perimeter, but short throws over the middle of the field. To your point about all what's going on with the screens and whatnot, where they're just not popping off. And I think they have good tackling corners and whatnot. So you really need to play this. This needs to be his most efficient game as a pro. The Bucs have an exceptional defense against deep passes. This is all about just peppering them. And then I think they'll be able to soften things up on the edges in the run game. But for me, it's really about that short passing game and Allen playing on time.
Yeah, I think a lot of Bills fans are very warranted in their frustration with the designs of the offense and with the personnel moves in the offense. I think it is extremely reasonable to be like, how is this the peak of our wide receiver room? This is not as good as it could be. I think it's also very reasonable to say, okay, this is our wide receiver room. How can we not get Khalil Shakir open down the field, right? How are we not finding, more creative ways to use Keon Coleman and these tight ends? Like, I think there's legitimate complaints in both those categories. I think it is also true. It's hard to say these things, but it's also true. Allen is just not playing well in the offense he's being given with the wide receivers he's been given. He's the 3rd on the list for blame. He shouldn't be put in these spots, but like, he kind of is existing right now in peaceful protests of the offense. Like, all these Keon Coleman late inaccurate targets are kind of a little bit of like a middle finger where it's like, exactly, like, he's just like, I'm not gonna take a sack here, so screw you, I'm just gonna make the incompletion. Like, he's clearly a little bit pissed off.
What would you say, this is I think a conversation to have, is the biggest difference with Josh Allen this year versus last year? Because it's not like this is often brought up, they didn't have a group of world beaters. This was the foundation of his MVP case, was that he was throwing to these scrubs. I did joke about this on NFL Live because they were like, it was basically the same. And I was like, did we not see Matt Collins just win on a go ball downfield? Right. Low key, they could use Matt Collins, who's like one of those. I want to do an all pro. You and I did like an underrated team. I want to do like an all pro of like the sneaky most valuable role players in the NFL. And Matt Collins is absolutely on that list for me. But anyways, that's aside. They do get Josh Palmer back in this game. But to go back to my question, like, what do you think is the biggest difference when you mentioned the sacks? That's huge.
Yep.
Thing with Lamar too, hilariously, because of the MVP stuff.
Right. To me, it is 100% the pressure to sack rate, right? Over quarterback seasons over the last 2 years. Last year, Josh Allen took a sack on 8.8% of his pressured dropbacks, not all dropbacks, pressured dropbacks. Of 77 seasons over the last 2 years, that is the best. He was the number 1 guy at turning a pressure into a at least pass attempt or scramble. This year, he's at 22%, right? And that's like, a little bit above league average, or excuse me, a little bit below league average for a number. Now, but that change going from the absolute best in the world to league average is astronomical. When you're, again, Joe Brady's trying to run this 5 out in the concept offense, which is just the entire idea there is my quarterback has an elite pressure response, has an elite blitz response, has an elite processor. So I'm going to put 5 out and he's going to, Joe Burrow make everybody wrong. And last year, Josh, when he wasn't able to do that in structure on time throwing it, was just so good at breaking a tackle. And for whatever reason, right, the marriage, like people always say, like, all right, these stars get married and then they get way worse. Like that's like a big online theory. Whatever the reason is, he's just not playing nearly as well against the unblocked pressures, moving in space, breaking tackles as he used to be. His air yards per attempt, dude, on some of these out of structure throws, like when he's outside of the pocket, he's like 45 yards down the field, right? He hasn't scrambled nearly as much on the third and longs he has in seasons past. Like, again, which feels to me a little bit like I guess I got to throw this to Tyrell Shavers now. Like, it feels a little bit indignant. But that to me is the biggest difference is the performance under pressure.
Yeah, the pressure, it's like I said, it is funny because to a lesser degree, it is the same thing with Lamar. I feel like watching him this year, but to a lesser degree. But the Ravens also will keep bodies in. They did their... Yeah. They've got some interesting...
They're dead last in 5 in the concept, right? It's completely the other direction, is that they get drop 8 and they have 3 routes out there and there's nothing to do.
Yeah, I know. Okay, I do want to add something on the Bucs offense, which I think is going to be important in this game. Because, what I always say about the Bills is, can they run? Can you run on them? Okay, cool. That's how the game's going to go. So the running is hard. Running on them, though, is an interesting one because Tampa's rushing attack through much of the season was not good. But there's a couple of things I wanted to know. One is Bucky Irving is back at practice. Hey! And the other is, this was my other thing about, I thought the Patriots game, nobody would be able to run, and both sides ran so the Pats just popped off a couple explosives with Henderson, but the Bucs actually, you talked about success rate, Rachaad White had a 50% success rate, Sean Tucker had a 56% success rate, and going and watching some of their runs, they did some cool stuff, lots of motion to get to their counter runs. They put 2 backs on the field, which is something they did a lot with Irving and White. And you go up against a Bills defense that just got terrorized with motion in the run game. I think Tampa has the ability in this one to get to a lot of those same types of runs that have given Buffalo trouble. You throw Bucky Irving back into the mix, then you start to get worried. Because if Tampa wasn't able to run the ball, I think I would feel good about this Bills defense in coverage. But, if they can run it the way they did last week, that's concerning to me if I'm a Bills fan.
Yeah, and the return of Luke Goedeke to me at right tackle is a big part of that in terms of the surprising success against the Patriots for the Bucs. Goedeke is just to me like the most underrated offensive lineman, if not the most underrated player in football. Like legitimate case, top 5 right tackle in football, top 10 for sure. Just never gets talked about like that. You can see how much that matters when they want to pull guys, and you have him going down and actually creating displacement and moving upfield. The creativity is good, and that's where Grizzard and this Bucs offense has always been at their strongest. You need a player like Bucky who also matches that creativity to really unlock it. And like, that's why the Rachaad White games were like very grindy and 3 yards a pop. And all of a sudden you get Sean Tucker back there and he's just kind of like hair on fire going wherever there's daylight, making guys miss. So I like the juice with involving Tucker more and doing a little more 50-50 split. If Bucky's back, it is a very, very, very big deal because of the space ability, right? This Bills linebacker room, man, like, they played a heroic game against the Chiefs. They were incredible. Every other game in this season, holy
the Dolphins game is some of the worst tape you'll see.
It's really bad.
As a lifelong Matt Milano fan, I had to put on the pretend I don't know. There was a play where it wasn't Cedric Wilson pop Poyer. It wasn't that one. I posted the Poyer one because they were all pointing at each other. There was one, I can't remember who popped Milano. It was one of the Dolphin skill players. We just sent him spinning, and I was like, "Oh, I can't watch this. Not my goat. Not going down like this." It was a tough watch. The safety. Oh my god. Anyways, sorry. And the DL without Ed Oliver is just getting their ass. It's ugly. I say all that, and I still want to take Buffalo because it's in Buffalo, and I just can't. I feel like Allen could have a Chiefs-like performance against this defense where he's just hyper efficient. He gets his together. I realize if you listen to the whole preview, it sounded like Tampa, but I've just been thinking about Allen in that Chiefs game, and I think that's the formula for them, and I think he can do it against this team.
Yeah, I'm like 50-50 on winner, right? I was one of the games I walked in.
If it wasn't Tampa, I would take Tampa. But
I like the Bucs' potential to cover in this game. Baker's been very inconsistent. He was super hot to start the year, and there's MVP talk, but like in general, it's been high variance stuff. And this Bills passing defense, for everything that's difficult with it now, can still make you, be a little bit more inching your way down the field. You have to be really good on third down against them. I'll take Tampa to be different. I think it's going to be a very, very close game. A lot of it depends on, I have two quarterbacks right now who are very Jekyll and Hyde. And who do I get Jekyll and who do I get Hyde from?
Yeah. All right. Texans, Titans, Davis Mills starting again, or at least I saw a quote today. Davis Mills is prepping to start week 11 against the Titans. So.
Yeah.
That's you.
Oh, sorry. Key to this game is if Jeffrey Simmons gets back into the football game, right? Jeffrey Simmons has been out for the last 3 weeks at defensive tackle. I know this because he quote tweeted Seth Walder this week. Seth put out one of his little double team rate, pass rush rate, and Jeffrey Simmons by a mile better than everybody.
Seth Simmons, known analytics. Yeah.
And Simmons quote tweeted, was like, "I'm ready to get back, baby. I've been out for 3 weeks. Get me in there." He's fired up about the charts.
I love it. Scatterplot.
Yeah, but in all seriousness, Simmons and T'Vondre Sweat, who last year were one of the best defensive tackle duos in football, have only shared the field for 2 games this season. T'Vondre Sweat got injured in week 1, and the week he came back in week 7 was the week that Simmons went down. If you can get a strong defensive front and win the defensive trenches against these Texans, you can put Davis Mills into a lot of third and longs. Last week, Mina, the Texans had a 65% success rate running the football against the Texans.
I went back and Texans? I actually went and I was like, I don't want to watch this game because it's Davis Mills. I know that's sorry. I get to every game. And I was like, you know what? I saw that rushing success rate. I was like, let me pop on some of these. There's a lot of duo. They were moving bodies. It was crazy to see. Shame on you, by the way.
Their previous best success rate on the ground in a game this year was 40%. They had 65% against the Jags. Jags probably one of the worst defensive tackle rooms in football right now. Titans, if they're both available, are one of the best. You can get this game to be within 1 score, get it to be a little bit muddy. In the event that you have both those players, we don't yet know Simmons' practice status going forward. Is worth noting, Cam Ward's absolute worst game of the season was against the Texans. He held on the football for the longest at a completion percentage over expectation of negative 15. Cam's got to get the ball out fast against this team, much faster than he did the first go around. I just don't know if he's got that club in his golf bag just yet in terms of his development and how much he trusts his offensive line. And so even if you get the really good defensive performance and the tackles are back and you're stopping them, you're getting short fields and Davis Mills is struggling, this still might be 6-0 in the fourth quarter because your offense isn't cashing in your checks.
That was the other thing about the Texans. So then I was like, what the hell happened with the comeback? So then I was like, all right, I end up watching I mean, we'll get to the Jag side of it, but oh my God, Danielle Hunter. Good Lord. I'm at Houston here purely on the strength of that pass rush. That defense is so sick.
Houston wins, but Texans had a very emotional fourth quarter come from behind victory. Now they're in a divisional spot on the road. This is a little live. It's a little live.
Not this defense against this offense. Okay, I'll do Packers Giants here. We got some news. Mike Kafka, it was the interim head coach, is starting Jameis Winston, which is good news for the Mina dynasty team, which has Jackson Dart, but also Jameis Winston miraculously.
A handcuff, baby.
It's the deepest, weirdest league ever, by the way. I'm not going to focus on that. I'm going to focus on the Packers offense, which has been the subject of much conversation and consternation this week for very obvious reasons. So the Packers offensive line versus the Giants pass rush is a mismatch in pass pro, but they should be able to run on them because everybody can run on this New York defensive front. So we've been talking a lot about Matt LaFleur and how the offense needs to change and it's too conservative and he runs the ball too much. But I actually think that it's all going to work on this team. So it's everything I said about the Packers offense and the way they need to evolve and how they need to attack downfield and they got to accept they're not a good running team doesn't really apply to this defense because I think they can I think that conservatism and that the willingness to run the football actually worked fine against New York.
Yeah, it's a classic get right spot, get the win. Josh Jacobs has 124 yards on 23 carries. Matt LaFleur goes to the podium and be like, oh, I thought, what now? And you're like, no. You don't get to beat the Giants and then be like, look at this, look at that, look at me. The main thing for them is the Packers have to figure out a Tucker Kraft solution, right? They're going to be a postseason team, the Packers. By the time we get to January football, you have to have figured out they were nearly 100%.
Reminds me to look something up.
They were nearly 100% 11 personnel against the Eagles, right? They were just, okay, we just don't have multiple tight end packages anymore. You can't do that. Like, you cannot. This is not 2019 Rams. You're not going to fool everybody with only one personnel package anymore. And so, get the wide receivers healthy, and let's see, like, okay, who's going to be your slot players and how you're going to rotate your guys, so on and so forth. No more Bo Melton 20 routes. And then you're going to, okay, you have John Fitzpatrick, and you have Luke Musgrave, who's an early draft pick for you. You have Josh Wiley. Like, maybe it's two back stuff. I don't know, but it's time to start throwing some things at the wall and seeing what can be our changeups when we get to January football. Because you can't lose a player like Kraft, as good as he was, and then just white flag and be like, all right, we just don't have multiple tight end sets anymore. That's not acceptable.
I think about like Matt LaFleur with the Malik Willis games and just how weird and creative he got. And I'm like, where was this against Philadelphia? Jaden Reed returns possibly week 13. That's a massive, massive return for them. It's been sneaky impactful. But yeah, no, that doesn't matter in this game. Jameis is not like, the Packers defense I trust deep. That's kind of the word.
It's so fun to be getting a Jameis game and everybody's stoked about it, but it's also like this is the worst defense for him to go against. Like, for his style of play, it's horrible. It's a terrible matchup, and they have no receivers. Like,
turn him over. Yeah. Okay. Let's do one more bad one before and then wrap this section with Bears Vikings. But let's do Bengals Steelers next. Divisional matchup. Joe Burrow on return watch.
Mm-hmm. My key for this game, Steelers oriented, is just try again, because you walked out against the Bengals. Okay, defensively the Bengals are horrible. You're gonna put a bunch of points on the board. You're gonna be successful, whatever. Yeah. They went out in that game, and Joe Flacco had his fastest time to throw of the season, right? 2.45 seconds. This is the second fastest time to throw the last 4 years. The Steelers had an unbelievable game with pressure. 2.38 time to pressure. It's one of the fastest numbers in the last 5 years. 18.4% quick pressure rate. Astonishing. But it just didn't matter because they were in press 30% of the time, and they were running disguised coverages, and just Jamar and T killed them, right? Your corners in that game, Jalen Ramsey, 9 targets, 5 receptions. Joey Porter Jr., 9 targets, 6 receptions. Darius Slay, 7 targets, 5 receptions. Now, Slay might be out of this one. He's in the concussion protocol. You've moved Ramsey out of the corner position. He plays free safety now, so this is going to be a Brandon Eccles game. Eccles, yes, Eccles. It's going to be Jabril Peppers might be coming back. Kyle Duggar's in the box. You have different bodies, but this is what you have to do. You have an immobile quarterback back there who can't move around. You have to try to challenge the receivers off the line because you can't give them free access. You're going to get fast pressure. You just got to get them down. You got to get more sacks. You got to get more turnovers. You got to get more hits. Like, this is the formula. You can't really change your stripes.
Was the game where afterwards Jamar was like, yeah, man, I can't believe they singled me up. And
knew what they do.
Like, covered 3. But there's been a little bit of, I would say, evolution over the last couple of weeks. You talked about the personnel stuff. The defense was largely fine against the Chargers. The Chargers ran on them, and that's, I think, something that Cincinnati could try to do. But for the most part, this just comes down to me. Like, can you come up with a better game plan for Jamar Chase than the one you had?
Yeah. So the note I do have down is, like, since they played them the last time, the Bengals, the Jets played the Bengals. And the Jets did not have a good game on the stat sheet against the Bengals, don't get me wrong. However, on third downs, the Jets played 0. And they bracketed Chase and T. So they had 2 double covers across the field. And then they said they had Jarvis Brownlee in the slot, and he manned up Andre Yosevas. And they said, okay, literally anybody else beat us in the passing game. And they got enough stops off the line, where Joe really wanted to throw to Jamar, and he was on it for a little bit too long. The pass rush got home, or he threw a contested ball to Yosevas, and they were able to tighten that window. That, to me, like, if you're going to try something new, let's take the middle of the safety out of the field, because we're not necessarily going to get good reps in that anyway. In fact, the middle safety is Jalen Ramsey. Like, you kind of like him in bracket positions. And let's see if we can do some more actual double teaming stuff. That, to me, is like the cool new thing you can try. But a lot of this is just like, you a little bit got to bang your head against the wall. This is the team that you built for. This is the way you built your defensive philosophy. Like, if you're going to zone off, okay, great. Like, Flacco's going to throw it at Patrick Queen 14 times. You're still going to lose by paper cuts. And so, to me, you got to try to get aggressive press, right? Come up with some better chase plans and see if regression bounces your way this time.
I'm gonna take the Steelers this time.
Yeah, at home, second matchup. I feel like they're gonna split it. I like the Steelers too.
The Steelers at least have improved slightly on defense since then. The Bengals defense remains an absolute nightmare. Mm-hmm. Okay, Bears Vikings. The 6-3 Chicago Bears.
Yeah.
Another team that I feel like I have a little bit of trouble getting my arms around in Chicago. A lot of those wins have come against some pretty bad teams. The Vikings are not a bad team, but they are a flawed team, particularly on offense. I'm going to focus on the other side of the ball because that's the matchup I'm most excited about. So from Minnesota's perspective, you got to do two things. Two things that I know Chicago can do. You got to stop the run, and you got to stop the deep passes. Unfortunately, those are two things that Minnesota has actually struggled at this year. The run stuff, the Vikings run defense has looked a little bit better over the last couple of weeks. Cashman comes back. They still really struggle against outside zone, which is what Chicago measures in. They're actually 29th in DVOA versus outside zone this year, which we know that's what the Bears are have become a very good outside zone running team. And then this actually shocked me. Like, I knew it wasn't going to be good, but versus deep passes, they are 32nd in EPA per play this year. And Chicago bombs it, man. This has been like maybe a little bit slept on, but Chicago is third in explosive plays. Caleb's fourth in attempts over 20 yards. Rome Odunze is the leading target getter there by a pretty significant clip. But going back and watching the Giants, some really pretty deep balls, some of which were caught, some of which were not. But I think this team is going to come out running and then bombs off play action. And if the Vikings can't stop those, then Chicago has a real chance against this defense.
Yeah, Next Gen Stats has the Bears with the highest explosive play rate in football, 17.2%. That's on the ground and passing combined. The deep passing thing is so fun. There are two defenses in the league that are allowing a completion percentage over 60% on throws 20+ yards down the field. They're the Minnesota Vikings and the Chicago Bears. Mina, there are two defenses in the league that are allowing a completion percentage over 55%. 20 yards down the field. It is the Minnesota Vikings. It's the Chicago Bears. These are, by a mile, the two most inconsistent defenses deep down the field. They lack great speed at safety and great instincts at safety, right? And so you can get uncontested balls further down the field. And then these are teams that, for the Bears, they just very inconsistently get pressure with four, and so you can have these prolonged dropbacks. And for the Vikings, it's if we want to be a high-pressure team, we're going to be sending additional bodies, and there's going to be, disguised coverage and coverage movements downfield that allow for room. They allow for air, and they allow for space. The theory being we can get there fast enough before you can find it. Hasn't borne out so far this year, and also the corner play has been pretty rough. And so this is going to be the drive chart in this game is going to be sick. It's going to be 3 and outs, peppered by 4-play, 80-yard touchdown drives just the whole way down. There could be 56 points scored in this game. There could be 23 points scored in this game, and nowhere in between. It's going to be very fun.
Caleb threw some gorgeous passes against New York.
I found the Caleb film so unbelievably frustrating because if that film happened for any of the, forgive me for this, any of the, film breakdown people's favored quarterbacks. If that happened for any of our adorned boys, if that was a Baker Mayfield game or a JJ McCarthy game, it would have been wall-to-wall coverage. And with Caleb, it was like, oh man, still taking risks. Oh, is he processing? That was an unbelievable
By the way, catch the damn ball, Bears. I posted this, I think on Blue Sky, but that they had the most drops of any receiver group in a.
Yep.
Catch the damn ball.
And that's with a couple fringe ones that don't necessarily get charted. There's a drop that got taken off with DPI, right? And so that doesn't get like that.
Yeah.
This should have been a Caleb Williams is the third quarterback in NFL history to complete 70% of his passes and throw over 350 yards game. It was unbelievable.
The one he threw rolling to his right to Zacchaeus to the corner of the end zone was just nasty ball. All right, you're on Chicago. Yeah. I don't know if I robbed your points there.
No, so my point was very much on the 20+ yards down the field, right? The objective for the Bears is to get the ball out of McCarthy's hands faster, right? When we talk about elite quarterbacks, we want to make their time to throw longer, slow them down, make them think. When we talk about bad quarterbacks with McCarthy, no, we don't want him to have 3.5 seconds back there to think, and there's no pressure, and he can see Justin Jefferson, he can hitch throw. No, we want to fluster this game. To me, go ahead.
No, I have good news for you Vikings fans.
Yeah. The pressure
rush sucks.
Exactly. The Bears pressure right now, it's 2.9 seconds in time to pressure. It's a third longest in football. Their week 1 game against the Vikings was actually quite good for pressure rate, 35%. They got after McCarthy early, but Justin School was in that game for Christian Darrisaw. And when you go back and you watch the pressures, yeah, it was left guard Donovan Jackson's first career start, and it was the backup left tackle, and that's just where they feasted. Jackson has improved in his play, and now Darrisaw is back for this game. Bears 7th worst in team pressure rate on the season. And so, to me, this is a game where Austin Booker's back on the field. Javon Dexter, has, I think, gotten his sea legs under him and started playing a
Sweat
little
looked
bit better
better.
this year.
Socks was a little harsh. Sweats looked better.
Yeah. So to me, the move here is, drop back in the zones and play the too high, and you have to try to be able to get pressure here with 4. You just don't want to let McCarthy take these shots that he's living on. 18.5% of his throws, 20 plus yards down the field, by a mile, the most of any quarterback in football. He can't dig and dunk it. He doesn't have it in him. He's not accurate enough. He takes too many sacks. They have too many offensive penalties. It's only with explosives that this guy beats you and puts a lot of points on you. You cannot give them up.
Maybe fewer than 5 false starts is a goal for the Vikings offense.
It's a home game.
They ran the ball well, though. That was interesting, too. That was part of what was so dispiriting about the McCarthy performance, was like they actually ran the ball well. And I think they have the potential to run the ball well against Chicago as well. So I'm taking Chicago here. I really liked what I saw from Caleb last week, and I have just been very concerned watching this Vikings passing attack.
Yeah, this is going to be Kevin O'Connell's best game since JJ came back, in the sense like he had 2 weeks ago, he had Kelvin Shepherd in the Lions, and that's a challenging opponent. O'Connell did well. Last week, it's Zach Orris' Ravens defense, which is, Kyle Hamilton now, they're presenting problems to you. That's challenging. O'Connell did well. This is like, there's so much gettable in the Bears in terms of the cornerback 2 and the safety speeds and the linebacker playing coverage. So O'Connell's going to get McCarthy his buckets. Like this is the one where like, all right, like first 2 games back from injury, only your 4th career start, your head's been swimming. We got to take a step forward in performance in this game. I think I'd like the Vikings to win because of the desperation, because of the coaching advantage. It's very tight. Chicago, I agree, 6-3. They keep finding a way to win, but like this is fraudulent, and at some point it's going to come back to bite them. This is a hard game to pick.
Yeah, I'm just not a believer in the Bears defense based on what we've seen, based on the pass rush, and quality of wins comes into play. But
I'm taking the Bears. I don't like how it feels. I'm taking the Bears.
I just think I really like what we're seeing from Caleb, and I'm just so discouraged from. We'll see. Minnesota, prove me wrong. But yeah, the Bears, Dallas, they got their butts kicked by, they lost to the Vikings. They got their butts kicked by the Lions. They beat the Cowboys. They beat the Raiders. They beat the Commanders, the Saints.
Commanders was also a very cheesy
Bengals,
win. Giants
Lions,
was a cheesy win. Bengals was a cheesy win.
Yeah.
Yep.
All right. They've played maybe 3 of the worst defenses in the NFL.
A hammer will drop on the Bears eventually, right? They're about to play like they have the whole NFC North coming up besides the Vikings.
This is the Pro Caleb podcast. All right, let's take a quick break. Come back. We'll get to the 2 enormous games of the week after the break. All right, we're back. Let's do it. Chargers, Jags.
Yes.
I'll do that one first before we get to none of them.
The Chargers are my radioactive team. Like, how like I'm not touching the Panthers. These Chargers, I'm like, oh no.
That's fair. Okay, so this one's pretty simple to me, which is just, can the Jags be semi-competent in the trenches on both sides? So, I alluded to the loss to, that was kind of the story of the collapse against Houston. The pass protection was an absolute nightmare for Trevor Lawrence. After they went up, he was pressured on like every single drop back he took, was sacked multiple times. Again, that's Danielle Hunter, but the Chargers pass rush is no joke. You saw that, I think, with Khalil Mack. And then on the other side of the ball, we know the story with LA. Their offensive line is somehow even worse. So the question becomes, can you do something? That was almost as disappointing to me watching the Jacksonville pass rush. It's supposed to be the strength of the team, and the contrast between them and Houston in that game was like pretty bad, to be honest.
Yes.
And that's Houston. You're going up against the Houston offensive line, which, is maybe not as bad as the Chargers at this point, but pretty bad. So Jacksonville, if you want to save your season, you want to turn this thing around, you got to protect Trevor. You got to rush the passer.
Yeah, this is, if you cannot do it against the Chargers, you cannot do it, period, right? And Anthony Campanile had a very nice start to the season, I thought, as the Jags DC. There was a lot of creativity, and they got the jump on a lot of guys. Since then, I think teams have figured out how to throw against this team, how to get their one-on-ones, and the corner play isn't as strong as you would hope for it to be. Obviously, they plan to have Travis Hunter play in there, and they aren't necessarily. But overall, it's tough to put too many eggs in the Campanile basket. There's more he could do there with blitzes, and Devin Lloyd has kind of come back down to earth a little bit. But in general, you just look at Hines Allen and Trayvon Walker, who like Walker's numbers still look fine. But besides these two players, there's just nothing in terms of interior push, both in the running game and in the passing game. And it's extremely difficult to coach around in the NFL. There's no such thing as a good defense without a good front four. And so you need better play from Eric Armstead. You need better play from Mason Smith. Like it has to improve, especially the defensive tackle room. Chargers offensive line, like I think you and I could get 5 pressures. You and I could have a Danielle Hunter game against Bobby Hart. Like it's to me the worst offensive line in football. So I like the Jags to get the bounce back game because I just think it's that prohibitive. Herbert hero game against the Steelers. There's no way he can keep doing this. They did run the football well against Pittsburgh, but also like I think some of the Kamani Vidal magic is wearing off. Like they're not getting like the high rush yard over expectation, big explosive runs. Like now it's very grindy and very grimy. Aronde Gadsden probably still going to be able to play in this game, but if there's no Gadsden, man, like it's just so hard to find big plays outside of your hero throws again to like Quentin Johnson and Keenan Allen and Ladd McConkey. We know those have been inconsistent. We know we've dealt with drops and Ladd's had some quiet games. And so I like the Jags, but this is because like I expect them to be a little bit more serious than they've been.
Brenton Strange practice window just opened 5 hours ago in time, but I don't know if he's going to play in this game. I'm taking the LA Chargers. Because of the other side of the ball. I don't like Jacksonville against this Chargers defense. I think the Chargers defense, they had they were really great and then they dipped and guys have gotten a little bit healthier. Mac's return has been really big for them. So I like them against this very inconsistent Jags offense. They've been getting pressure, man. And that's not easy against Aaron Rodgers who throws the ball in, a half a second. So, okay, let's do it. Rams Seahawks. Do this one first. So this is in LA, which doesn't really matter because the Seahawks are so good on the road and it's LA.
Right, exactly. I think it's better to be in LA.
I'm going to focus on the Rams here. I'm going to start because I just saw a quote that really informs my thinking. Let me pull it up. It's from the incredible JB Long, who does a fantastic job. We do the Rams preseason. He calls college games with Michael Jr. He also does he calls the Rams games on Rams radio, and he has this great show with Sean McVay once a week where he asks him, like people, if you guys like ball, you should watch it, especially if you're a Rams fan, because he gets into the weeds. So JB brings up the trend of all the good offenses in the NFL putting big bodies on the field and getting defenses in base, which is what the Rams have been doing. We've been talking about this on the show the last few weeks. Started with Nakua out. They've been leaning really heavily into 13 personnel and then just shredding teams through the air, which the Seahawks do too, right? So Sean McVay said this. I didn't transcribe it exactly, but JB asked him about it, and he said, yeah, it's definitely a trend. He agrees with JB, and he says, but if you want to go lighter, we will mash you. Paraphrasing, that's basically what McVay said. Seattle matches 13 personnel and 12. I added them both to get a larger sample size with base defense at the lowest rate in the entire NFL. Seattle does not do it. They won't do it. They do that because they can defend the run so well out of their nickel defense. Seattle's nickel defense versus the run, 3.9 yards per carry. Seattle's nickel defense versus runs with multiple tight ends, 3.3 yards per carry, which is insane. That's absurd. I think if they do that, and that's what I expect them to do. McVay is going to try to run the ball on them. If you're gonna go light, he's gonna run it. And whether or not Seattle can keep it up against this run game, to me, is going to be massive in this game.
I haven't been this excited for a regular season game in a minute. Like I do not think it is an exaggeration to say that this is the best offensive head coach in football against the best defensive head coach in football. It's arguable, but I think it's not an exaggeration to say that. I also don't think it's an exaggeration to say this is right now the most cooking, the most heater offensive coordinator in football in Clint Kubiak against the most cooking heater defensive coordinator in Chris Shula. Like it is just it's war daddy stuff on both sides of the ball. When the Rams have it, and it's 13 personnel. This is the game for which you went and got Nick Monwari. This is the trade up was for this game. If you watch Week 9 last year, this is Rams Seahawks. The Rams only had 13 offensive points in regulation. They got it to overtime. They won it overtime. Stafford hero throws, whatever. But they were struggling on offense. Mike Mack was having a great game. They came out in the second half. They put multiple tight ends on the field and they ran the football because Seattle was trying to play nickel to everything. And at that time, there was no Monwari. It was Kayvon Wallace and Kobe Bryant in the box, or Julian Love, excuse me. And they were able to get on the boundary a ton, and they get these off tackle runs because they were only getting 4 down fronts. They get the tight ends up to the second level, and that was the solution. And Mike McDonald said, okay, I'm going to go get a very large safety, and I'm going to have the ability to play nickel with this guy in the box, and he's going to be able to cut off those lines. The other player is DeMarcus Lawrence, who now you can play some 5 down front stuff with Uchenna Nwosu and DeMarcus Lawrence, and those guys are really, really strong run defending edge setters. This Mike, the Seattle defensive approach in free agency and in the draft was for this Rams team, and the Rams met them pound for pound with Terrence Ferguson, with Davis Allen, with the additional tight end. Like this, it is a clash of offensive and defensive philosophies in a way that it's just like, it's beautiful and enjoyable and great.
Yeah, I mean, the thing, 3.3 yards per carry out of a nickel versus heavy is like insane. And I should have, it's a big nickel because in war he's like kind of, he's a safety, I guess, whatever, but he's bigger than your average nickel. This is, there's like a league wide, like if you got a Cooper DeJean, if you have a nickel who can get his nose dirty, it's so important right now because of the exact dynamic we're describing.
Yeah, I'm very interested to see how they deploy him, because the thing about Imon right now is that he's still green. He's a young pup. And so some of the play action reps are rough. Some of the misdirection stuff is tough. He's false stepping a lot. His eyes are not like, when he's next to Ernest Jones and when he's next to Devon Witherspoon, like he is so clearly a tick, 2 ticks below these players in terms of processing. I would love to see Mike get him on the edge a la Kyle Hamilton in Baltimore right now, right? Where instead of playing, like a 4 down front and then Imon is like stacked as a linebacker, or a 5 down front, he's walked down as a linebacker in a 7-man box. I would love to be able to reduce the front, get DeMarcus Lawrence inside of the tackle, get Boye Mafe inside the tackle, Derek Hall inside of the tackle, and then stand Imon up on the line of scrimmage outside of those tight ends, because you cannot let the runs get to the boundary on you. Once the runs start to get to the boundary on you, and your linebackers have to play fast to flow, and your corners have to play downhill, that's the moment they murder you in play action pass. They will boot Stafford out, and he will drop a ball 40 yards downfield in a bucket. So you have to set better edges in this game. So I'd like to see Imon walked up, and then you let Ernest Jones play fast in the second level. If there's a game for like penny front stuff, it's your 5-1 front. To me, this is the game for it.
The Rams, because they hit the big plays through the air out of those 13 personnel. You saw like the ball to Ferguson in this game. They hit a big one too. I think all the tight ends honestly had explosives, if I remember correctly, against San Francisco. But it was also very matchup-y, right? Because San Francisco doesn't have linebackers anymore. So it's like, all right, cool, let's put our big guys. I am interested in seeing if McVay leans into that, or if he actually feels a little bit more comfortable with 11. Like, I think what's key here is, and I think this is the core point, because Seattle's defense is so good out of their nickel or big nickel right now, opposing offenses can't really manipulate them the way the best offenses are doing in the NFL at the moment. It's part of like, it's why you can't go no huddle on them. Like they just keep. You talked about that with Washington, right? You were like, Seattle could just keep the same guys on the field. They're just so good at stopping both the run and the pass. They're great against play action. This was like sneakily a weakness of theirs last year. Even when they improved in the second half of the season, when they traded for Ernest Jones, they still really struggled versus play action. They're 100%. So good against play action this year.
Yeah, and to me, it comes down to that defensive line, right? It's the ability to slow all these runs, and the ball has to wait behind the line, because Leonard is so good. Byron Murphy's playing unbelievably this season. We've talked about the edges. That's where now thinking about things that way. When the Rams played them last year, it was Bo Limmer at center, and it was Justin Dedich at left guard. And the Seahawks blitzed the ever-living daylights out of the left side of the line, and they really, really won on the interior runs because they had an advantage in the interior. Kevin Dotson this year is kicking tail, brother. I mean, like he is just taking names. Steve Avila at the left side looks healthy. He's playing excellent. And then is it Coleman Shelton or Shelton Coleman? They always screw me over. Coleman Shelton, thank you. There's 2 offensive linemen. They have flipped names, and it kills me. Coleman Shelton there's the center for the Rams. The interior play is much better than it was. And so if you can grind out those runs and get those double teams to be successful, it changes everything off of what the Rams did last year. Rams were 3 for 13 on third down against the Seahawks because they could not get into their third and mediums. And then all of a sudden it was blitz packages from everywhere. Third highest blitz rate of a Mike McDonald game for the Seahawks. You're not going to be able to do that again if it's 3rd and 4, but if it's 3rd and 7, Stafford can't really move as much this year. It's going to be heat. They're going to blitz a ton in this one.
Did you are you looking at this from the Seahawks offense point of view, or let's talk about that, because
Right.
Equally fascinating, right? Because as much as we talk about this Seahawks defense being amazing, and they are, the Rams defense quietly the most improved unit in the entire NFL, and nobody talks about it. This was not a good defense last year.
No,
I think everybody remembers the end of the year, but it's like, no, for most of the year, they were not good. And this year, they've been exceptionally better.
Yeah, and a big part of the improvement is what was foretold by last year, which is we can just blow a lot of stuff up with this defensive line. Like we can be very penetration oriented. They are so good in terms of getting knockbacks and resetting the line of scrimmage and just making everything muddy and mucky. The secondary now, like they're really good in the spine. I think Quentin Lake at the nickel is playing wonderful football. Cam Kinchens at safety is a huge player for them. The outside corners are still your concern. So if you're Seattle here, this is a game to go extremely condensed in the formation, to get a lot of bodies in there. Is obviously what your identity has been, but like this is a big fullback game. Robbie Boots, right? You got to get Robbie back there. You do your 2 tight end stuff, and then be able to put JSN on the outside. And you have to check your work and see what they're going to give you there. Because if, like, I know Emmanuel Forbes has played well this year, but if they're going to give you that matchup, he's averaging 4.5 yards per out run. Like you're going to have to be there. So to me, the thing to really, really hammer in this game is to just go extremely aggressively into the play action pass. Like when Sam played this Rams defense last year in the playoffs, right? Remember, Shula walked into that Vikings game, Donald's on fire, Vikings are killing it, but they had some offensive line issues. And Shula basically just said, I'm going to always send 4. We're screwing run defense. Like we're not going to be gap sound whatsoever. We're going to constantly muddy up the pocket for Sam here. We just don't expect him to be comfortable. You have to be able to boot out Sam. You have to be able to max protect for him. You have to hide him from the pass rush. Shula and the Rams defense this year, success rate on dropbacks against play action, they're 27th, right? It is still an issue for this team because the linebacker play is not that strong, because you can pick on these corners in space when they play zone, right? This is not the strength of the unit. And so to me, this is, much what Seattle's been so far this season is supposed to work against this Rams defense. It hides the pass rush, it negates that big advantage, and then you go for JSN in space. 15 targets for Smith-Njigba.
The Rams have a harder choice to make than the Seahawks, right? Because I think what we're describing with the Seahawks offense versus the Rams was, or probably the Rams offense versus the Seahawks defense was really strength on strength, because the Seahawks defense cannot be manipulated. The Rams defense, as good as they are, to your point, can take advantage of certain weaknesses that Seattle doesn't have. If I'm LA, I am just begging Seattle to run the football on every down.
Yeah.
Whatever I can give you, the tastiest run looks. Now, the problem is, unlike Seattle, when the Rams go lighter, they're not as good against the run. Yeah, they're decent. They've been decent against the run, but when teams have put big bodies on the field, you are able to run on them. I just think you would rather live that way against this team, because Seattle is still so inconsistent running the football, than get diced up by JSN and these tight ends and cup, it's cup revenge game. I just don't I don't like this Rams pass defense against Seattle at all. So I think you really want them to run.
Yeah. Now, we talked about this when Rashid Shaheed was traded during the pod last week, right? Yeah. Where you want to have a more legitimate wide receiver 2 option for if and when those teams just really index on JSN defensively. Chris Shula is going to put a safety and a corner pressing on JSN the entire game, right? Yeah. This is as a defensive coordinator goes over the last year and a half, he has been extremely willing to push safeties to the side and press and to cloud and to push coverage that way. Like they play a lot of zone coverage. They don't have guys who are like, elite processors or whatever. So he plays the numbers game, right? He will play 5-over-3 and man it backside and just make somebody else beat him. This is the game for which you got Shaheed. Obviously, he had 3 reverse touches against the Cardinals. That game was made up. Like they were winning 28-0 in the first quarter. Like it's not a helpful game in terms of how he's going to be used. If you can get your Shaheed isolations on the backside and they're going to give that to you because they're over-indexing to JSN, then this is the game for that. Yeah. Script is huge as well. We're talking about the Seahawks offense. Sam Darnold has just avoided clear dropback situations all year because their defense has been so excellent. They've been nursing these big leads. They've stayed ahead of the sticks. This Seahawks defense has been putting the offense in good positions. If you're the Rams, man, like if I'm McVay, I'm walking out with a trick play in the first quarter, right? I'm
the ball first,
highly aggressive, right? If I can get you to 10-0, if I can get you to 13-3, I really think I can take advantage of Sam in the second half. So point margin first half, an extremely big deal for the Rams.
Script is big for the Rams too, because I don't think the Rams are as dependent on run pass conflict. Like I think you could trust, Matthew Stafford to, even to come from behind or in drop back situations. But this is not you saw this against the Cardinals. this is not the defense you want to fall behind against.
Mm-hmm.
It really has that 2000, speaking as the Seahawks, which I rarely do, it reminds me a lot of the feeling that I had in 2013 or so, where I was like excited for the defense to get on the field, which is like such a unique football feeling. Where you're like, let's go.
Yeah.
We got a lead. We're going after the quarterback. You don't want to fall behind against this team.
And there have been, defensive sensations over the last couple of years. Oh, the Brandon Staley, Vic Fangio moment. Oh, the Brian Flores moment. I cannot stress this enough. Mike Macdonald can code switch. He could be both of those guys in one game. And it is like the game last year, they played man and pressed because and Stafford had his second lowest rate of quick passes in the last 2 seasons because Mike walks out and says, "What is going to make you uncomfortable?" And they are
and he
bespoke every single week. It's
the
so cool.
Players to do it. I mean, Marcus Spears. It's been consistently laying. This is his favorite defensive line to watch in football because they don't have a Myles Garrett, they don't have, a Danielle Hunter, but every single player is good. The way Mike Macdonald weaponizes the defensive line, the way he gets matchups for them, the way he overloads, and it is masterful, quite frankly. I'm taking Seattle. Screw it. All right. I wasn't sure until this second, but I'm taking Seattle because I think that the Rams offense and the Seahawks defense are almost exactly evenly matched. And I think the Seattle offense is slightly better than the Rams defense.
Yeah. When I know Ernest Jones' status for this game, I will pick it. I will hop back on
the pod. Coward!
I'm at a spot where I want to take the Rams.
It's fair.
And I'm falling for the exact same banana in the tailpipe I fell for last year, where I was constantly picking against the Eagles because I was like, eventually we'll see them on a negative script and they'll have to drop back. And it's just like never happened. Yeah, we don't know if this team is as super as that team is. But it's just if it's a 10-point deficit for Stafford, we're all going to be on the edge of our seats in the fourth quarter. If it's a 10-point deficit for Sam in the fourth quarter, I just trust that a lot less, especially against this pass rush. We didn't talk about Anthony Bradford and some of the ways that Shula's going to be able to get after some of the weak points in protection. But yeah, Ernest Jones, Mike Macdonald literally just said an hour ago, I just checked, no updates yet.
Who was freaking awesome this last week?
Drake?
Tyrese Knight. Well,
Tyrese, yeah.
Both of the backup backer, but Knight was amazing.
Yeah.
But yeah,
I cannot tell you, like you brought up Marcus Spears, how much he loves this defensive line. The defensive line is depth that has unbelievable talent across the board, so many body types. It's great. I find it so profoundly offensive that I'm watching a defense featuring Drake Thomas, Ty Okada, and Josh Jobe, whom simply
Job is good now.
Right. If you handed the defense with those 3 starters to any other coordinator in the league, no shot. And Mike's just like, no. Mike's just like, hey, Ty Okada's elite now. Don't worry about it.
Okay. Mike Macdonald appreciation. I know, sorry. Everyone's like, oh, Seahawks fan, whatever. Mike Macdonald appreciation note here, because Mike, first of all, he should be getting Coach of the Year hype. I don't think it always goes to like.
I was going to lead the column with it this week, and then Brian Dable got fired.
And you just described why, which is, they've got good players. I always say Leonard Williams is the most underrated player in football that no one talks about. Obviously, they have highly drafted players, Spoon, Emanwari, etc. Byron Murphy, who's been awesome this year. But as guys every time a guy gets injured, it doesn't matter watching this team. And you have guys come in like Thomas and Okada and whatnot. And it's not just the scheme is, we talked about everything they do with the terms of the pressures in particular, which I love watching the most. But to be able to teach players to come in like that and execute at the high level that we're seeing, to me, absolutely speaks to the coaching that he's doing, the coaching job that he's doing. Emanwari, by the way, I loved him. I was like, it's going to take a while for this kid, right? Just watching him in college, some of the angles and stuff. He has so dramatically exceeded my expectations. He was a high draft pick. He was a second. They gave up some. But for him to come in and immediately have the impact that he has, outstanding stuff. I mean, just credit to Mike Macdonald. This is, in 2 years, he did it again. He did it with Baltimore, and then he did it again with Seattle. If that's not coach, I know we care about offense, but if that's not Coach of the Year stuff, I don't know what is.
And that's before we even get to, I hired an offensive coordinator in year 1. It clearly didn't work. We're going to change our quarterback, go get a new offensive coordinator, immediately plug and chug. Like, it just doesn't happen. It's so cool. Anyway, Rams win. Stafford's great.
Okay. we gotta speed up here a little bit because we spent so much time on that game. Okay. You have Niners, Cardinals. It is no Marvin Harrison Harrison Jr., who has appendicitis.
Yes. Had a surgery on Monday. Hope we're wishing the best for you, Marvin. Not only that, Zay Jones to IR, the Achilles. Semi Fehoko also went to IR at wide receiver. The available wide receivers as of right now, they will certainly promote someone off the practice squad, are Michael Wilson, Greg Dortch, Xavier Weaver is a 2024 UDFA, 3 targets, no receptions, and Andre Baccellia, who's a 2020 UDFA, who has 7 catches in 2022, and those are his only stats. That's the current receiver room in Arizona. The injury arrow points the other direction in San Francisco, where Brock Purdy is, as Kyle Shanahan weirdly is framing it, going to have an aggressive week of practice. I don't know why aggressive is the adjective.
Our man's going through it.
But Brock might be back in this game. When they played in week 3, it was Mac Jones the second side, so Brock hasn't seen the Cardinals yet. Ricky Pearsall also expected to come back and practice this week.
That's big.
I actually still do like the Cardinals here. I think that, like, we all had the Jacoby Cowboys game. They make Jacoby the starter. We're all like, yay, like this will be better. They ran to Seattle and
legitimately. Team that camp. The second they fell behind, I'm like, oh, the Jacoby Brissett 50% play action offense.
Yeah.
Turn it off.
Offensive plays with a win percentage greater, a win percent like likelihood, a win probability greater than 10%. Do you have a guess how many plays the Cardinals had with a win probability greater than 10% on offense?
I don't know.
It was 7. That's how many. Before it was like, oh, you barely have a shot in hell of winning this game. So it's just like it's very much a throwaway game for me on the offensive side of the ball. Defense too, like, was not even that bad. Remember, there were 2 scores on the sack fumbles. It just ran out really poor in the first quarter for them. Meanwhile, you got a Niners defense that's 30th in success rate, 28th in points per drive, 27th in EPA per play. So for the Cardinals, the key for this game for me is running it through Trey McBride. You should have a very thin wide receiver room. There's no Fred Warner available. This is going to be a game where you're going to have to be able to find creative ways to use him. I think you should split him out wide a lot more, throw it to him in isolation. Probably still no Trey Benson. So you're looking at Michael Carter and Amari DiMercado game because Zay Knight is also out. This has to be a game where you funnel your star player and you find creative ways to get him moving across the formation. So Petzing, dust off that 13 personnel, dust off some of those Browns plays, and let's get after it. I do like the Cardinals to win this game, even with Brock Purdy.
Really?
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm on the Niners.
Niners defense, man. Like, this is
I
not
know,
close.
I hear you, but I don't know. Brissett doesn't quite have like a Trey McBride game. When I think about the formula,
it's quick passes, it's pop gun stuff.
Yep. I don't know. I actually watching I know it's maybe Brock Purdy, but watching the Niners against the Rams, I was still like, this offense is actually still pretty good. Mm-hmm. I think they do some good stuff on the ground. I think they'll be able to run it on Arizona.
So when they played week 3, McCaffrey had like 15 carries for 40 yards, right? I mean,
yeah, but that's before McCaffrey. Like, he really, there's something like the last few weeks. I know, I hear you, but he has gotten a lot better.
And there was no Kittle in that game too. It was also a big part.
That's been a massive part of the improvement that they've had. Okay, cool. We're split again. I like it. Spicy. Ravens, Browns. Important update. This is what I was Googling. Lamar Jackson didn't practice today, Wednesday, but he is expected to return Thursday. So
nice.
Okay. Notable. I'm not going to focus on that side of the ball. I'm going to focus on the Ravens defense. I want to see if this pressure, if this pass rush is trending in the right direction, which looked like it, but JJ McCarthy helps in that regard. But Mike Green has started to flash a little bit. Draymond Jones had a couple of nice plays. I thought Travis Jones was excellent against the Vikings. And this Browns offensive line is just a nightmare. Look, Gabriel's not been good. I get it. But, oh, buddy, it is ugly out there. I mean, they have to rank near the top of the NFL in pressure rate. Fun fact, Dylan Gabriel, when defenses send a blitzing defensive back, is dead last with a QBR of 4.
Better than 3. Worse than 5.
There is one in Baltimore you may have heard of who likes to who likes to come.
Dude, the Kyle Hamilton trying to break up a screen rep on Gabriel where he's already 6 inches taller than him and he's got the hands up. It's gonna be a tough screenshot.
Swallow him.
Yeah.
Just in general, I think the Ravens are gonna blitz him a lot in this one. I would. So
yeah. I'll
take the Ravens. The other side of the ball, these teams played. It was kind of a weird game. Lamar didn't have to do much. He had a few deep passes, I remember, but I think they should be able to win this. I mean, the Browns offense is just dismal right now.
Yeah, the Lamar against the Ravens is interesting because the way they've always been successful against Cleveland is the fact that like they're going to get their double teams and they can steamroll and they can run and kind of get the train moving. It's just not been the case with this offensive line with Derrick Henry this year. So I'm a little worried about this game for the Ravens. Like when everyone was mapping out how the 1-5 Ravens got to 7-5 and won the AFC North and whatever, it was like, oh, Miami, check. Oh, Minnesota with McCarthy, check. This is the game to me where it's like, okay, Cleveland's defense tends to be way better at home. It is a divisional game. You're not really scared of anything from the offense. I get that. But also, like, this Ravens offense is still very herky jerky. Like the point totals and the stats against Miami and Minnesota look good. Watch those games. It's a few drives, right? It's for a
They're
half.
like
It hasn't been a complete idea yet.
It's you see the flashes of how good they are, and it's like, oh, that's Lamar. There's Lamar, and there's Zay Flowers. But yeah, it has been. They still aren't quite figuring it out in terms of running the ball. I think that's going to be an issue against Cleveland. But I just think the other side.
Yeah. So I like Ravens to win, but would not be surprised if this is still a close one, fourth quarter.
All right. We've got 3 more games, 2 good ones. Let's do Chiefs Broncos, and then we'll get to the Eagles and Lions on Sunday Night Football. You're on Kansas City. I'm on Denver. Why don't you go first? And what's your key for Kansas City in this?
Yeah. The key is to find more consistent pressure answers, right? When we go back and we look at that Mahomes game against the Bills, Mahomes was 3 for 16 when pressured. He had 0 scrambles. He had 18 air yards per attempt against pressure against Buffalo. There is just no reason to live like this, right? And I understand why you're trying to live like this. It's because last year you couldn't live like this. You couldn't kill teams. The one play 75-yard moonshot, go running down the field, celebrating, woo, touchdown. Like that just wasn't in the cards for you. And so the pendulum has swung that direction. They really want to be that way. Marquise Brown down the field, David Worthy down the field. It's more volatile than the Chiefs need to be. Last year was obviously the pendulum too far in the first direction, right? When they played the Broncos in week 9, the week 18 game was Carson Wentz. So we only have really the one sample, but 40% of his throws are behind the line of scrimmage. They had a 43% pressure rate. Like they had to live fast time to throw, throwing underneath all their screens and their RPO stuff to try to mitigate the pass rush. All right, well, Jawan Taylor should be back in this game. That's expected. We'll see if Josh Simmons can play. If he's got to get back up to football speed, he's back with the team. Nobody really knows. But your tackle play should be better. And now your wide receiver play should be better with no Patrick Surtain. So, when they send their blitzes and when Nick Bonito inevitably wins and Zach Allen inevitably wins, that's going to happen. Let's, win on a slant. Let's, win on a back shoulder ball on a stop route. It shouldn't be literally 0 to 100, more like -3 to 100 in terms of where we're trying to go against teams on pressure. So we got to modulate. We got to find a happy ground. I know we're all excited to have Rashee Rice back, but the model on offense last year wasn't totally wrong. It's nice to be consistent. We need to return to that a little bit.
Still no Surtain. Alex Singleton missing in this game after you saw the news.
Yeah.
Team test found out he had cancer. But treatable. He'll be okay. But he's missing this game. Yeah, man. Like this game's tough for me because the Broncos defense, I think, matches up really well with Kansas City. Like I was thinking about, I'm thinking through all the stuff you're describing. Like, okay, well, what do they have to do? What have they been doing poorly? But like, they just are good against all of the stuff that the Chiefs not having Surtain is really, I do think because of the absence of Surtain, Kansas City can attack them through the air in a way that if Surtain was in the mix, I think I would be a little bit skeptical of. I don't think they can run on them. Yeah. So I think this is...
And typically against the Broncos, you always hear me talk about running back targets. I do not want to be throwing the ball to Isaiah Pacheco if he goes and Kareem Hunt.
That's what I'm saying.
Is this finally like the Brashard Smith games? We've gotten like 2/3 of the Brashard Smith games, and maybe that is.
I think he is an important answer for them in that regard, especially actually with Singleton now. Dre Greenlaw's back. So
so it'll be him and Stranad.
So that helps. That does help a lot. So it's not like a huge, but even so, I think also I think Denver's going to play a ton of time in this game. I would not be surprised if even with the Surtain injury, if they lean heavily into their sub packages. It's kind of like hard for Broncos games are hard to
There's no way to talk about it without getting in trouble. You just have to turn into the skid.
In trouble. I'm just like not. What I meant, not hard to discuss. They're easy to discuss. They're hard to pick because I think this defense can single-handedly win every game. I think they can single-handedly win this game. The offense is not fun to watch. I think they can run it on Kansas City.
No J.K. Dobbins, though, potentially.
Yeah, I still think they can.
Yeah. I mean, so Dobbins has 161 rushing yards over expectation this year. RJ Harvey has 16. 44% success rate to Harvey's
Really?
32%. Yep.
He's
Harvey
looked
had
better than
one
Harvey,
huge
but
Harvey had one huge run, and then since then, and they haven't used him at a high volume, and so we're dealing with a small sample here. But Dobbins has been really, in my opinion, quite good this year relative to Harvey, who I would say to be below league average. Yeah.
he has been good. Against Kansas City, I talked about this with the Bills. You got to run between the tackles. Oh, right. You and I talked about that game, and we talked about how they could run and attack the backers through the air, and then that's what they did.
Yeah.
Denver could hypothetically do that as well. My key, by the way, was not about that side of the ball. Sorry, it was I was just in agreement with you with Kansas City in terms of how the offense should attack that defense. But my feeling is the Denver Broncos defense has to turn this into a Patrick Mahomes gets frustrated game. And they are able to do that. But I would feel a lot better if Surtain. I'm taking Kansas City because Surtain's not playing. There you go.
Yeah.
If Surtain was playing, I actually think I might take Denver because I think this defense would just be so overwhelming. But without him, there are places for Patrick to attack through the air, and I think the ball comes out quick, and he does that.
Yeah, I do think we're going to see a much better version of the Denver offense than we certainly saw against the Raiders. It was a long week. That was like a bottom tier game for them. They obviously spend a lot of time in the offseason game planning against these Kansas City Chiefs. The Chiefs are really struggle against tight ends. The Broncos have about 6 of them, right? So you're going to be able to go multiple tight end and move guys. They have 6. I'm not saying they're good 6, but they play 6 of them. Courtland Sutton had a very nice performance against Trent McDuffie in the past. I think has generally been a good player against McDuffie. It's the sort of receiver that McDuffie struggles with.
6 inches on McDuffie.
Yeah.
Right?
And so to me, there's a lot that matches up there well. The thing is just Nick's on early downs, Nick's on the script, Nick's outside of the fourth quarter is just a bottom 5 quarterback right now by every metric we've got. He is so risk averse. He is so terrified of taking a sack. He is so worried about throwing into a intermediate window and getting an interception that just everything is check down and go, check down and go. And if you do this against the Chiefs, who are a very good tackling team in the secondary, you're just going to make mistakes down the field. So you got to be, it's hard to stay aggressive. And he hasn't even been that aggressive, but it's hard to stay aggressive when you've been throwing your picks downfield and you've been very inaccurate. You got to ride the variance wave a little bit. You kind of have to keep going into it against the Chiefs. Otherwise, you're going to see too many 3rd and 8s. You're going to see too many 0 blitzes, and that's going to lead to fumbles and sacks and punts. And so hopefully, they have the bye coming up. There's going to be a lot of self-searching there in Denver, but this is an opponent that they very nearly beat last season. It's the opponent they've been playing for. It was the blocked field goal was the only reason they lost. I expect, and that was Bo Nix's really best game to that point in his career, that game he played against Denver last year. So I'm expecting an impassioned performance again. I like Denver to win. I do. I think the defensive matchup is really good for them. Like you said,
it is good for them. It's so hard for me. Yeah.
I have faith in Peyton. Even without Dobbins, I do have faith in Peyton to figure some things out.
All right. So many splits. I love it. A lot of close games.
Fun week.
Yeah, looking at some of these lines. Okay. Yeah, right. So it's Chiefs by 4 in Denver. That's pretty high.
Yep.
I guess that Broncos offense at this point, people are just having a really hard time. Okay. Eagles Lions, Sunday Night Football, banger. Absolute banger. I'm on the Eagles, so I will go first here. Boop, 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 boop. Okay. Couple things. I think I'm going to focus on the Eagles offense. I think that the 6 offensive line under center stuff works in this game. So I stick with it. I know it didn't work against Green Bay. The Lions defense, if you put big bodies in the field, will match it with a linebacker. Play action has to be a big part of the plan here. So that's an important thing for the Eagles offense. Stick with it. And the other thing is you got to be prepared for Kelvin Shepherd to make you sit out. This Lions defense plays a ton of man coverage, etc. Kelvin Shepherd is one of the smartest young defensive play callers in football. He has watched the same Eagles offensive tape as the rest of us. I would not be surprised if we see some serious tendency breakers on the part of their defense. We're going to see a bunch of simulate. We're going to see the zone blitzes. We're going to see the sims. We're going to see, similar to Green Bay, like the split safety looks. So you cannot come into this game and expect just simple man coverage and man blitzes.
Mm-hmm.
They have to be prepared to face a different style of defense from what we've seen so far from Detroit.
So it's right off my notes, right? Where it's just this is the Kelvin Shepard game, where Shepard had like when he had the game against the Ravens, he clearly walked out and said, "This is a unique offense. This is how I'm going to deal with it. We have our stuff. We have what we do against the Commanders and the Bengals and the Browns, but this is what we are going to do here in this game against Baltimore." I highly expect the same thing. There's no defense coordinator in the world who did not spend time preparing for the Super Bowl champions when they were on their schedule, right? So this I think is going to be much more bespoke, especially because that it's such an obvious move for the Eagles. Okay, you like to be a base team. We like to be 6 offensive line. We like to be 12 personnel, and be a run heavy team. Terry and Arnold against Devontae Smith, it doesn't take a genius to figure out that that's the way we're going to go. So I expect to see a lot of cloud. I expect to see a lot of too high coverage. The linebackers are much better in zone than they've been in years past. Jack Campbell has improved in that regard. It's Alex Anzalone has some strength there. And we know that Jalen does not like to see changing pictures at the snap and does not like to see zone coverage, right? It's weird because sometimes teams have the tools for that and it feels like they should be the move and then they don't do it. Maybe Shepard walks out and decides to be 6 in the pressure and cover 1 and play man free behind, and he just doesn't fear AJ Brown, but I don't know. He seems too sharp for that for me.
I don't need to give you the Eagles numbers against man versus we all know. You don't play man coverage against AJ Brown. It's pretty clear. But yeah, again, I actually think from you look at the stuff that has worked for Philadelphia against those looks when they hit it. By the way, the play action pass to Devontae in the Packers game, mostly bad, obviously offensively. You think about Goddard being a potential answer for them over the middle of the field.
Yeah. They've been listening to you on Goddard slide routes, man. Since you said on the pod 3 or 4 weeks ago, it's just the only thing they run on play action downs. It's so annoying.
No, but I love Devontae as an answer to that over the middle of the field is big. Yeah, that in-game chess match between the defensive coaching staff and the offensive part of Philadelphia is going to be huge in this one, just because of Shepard and because of the Lions defense is also just really, really sound against the run. Mm-hmm. So I think you can't bang your head into the wall too much. But you have to have the flexibility to where if they come out and they're like, actually, we're going to seed this on the ground, you got to be comfortable doing that. The Eagles offense, I actually have Eagles defense, pardon me. I'm actually kind of interested in, similarly from the perspective of Fangio, if he changes things up a little bit against Detroit, because a lot of what the Eagles defense is perfectly calibrated to beat the Eagles offense, hilariously. But I actually think Detroit, if they come out and play the way that they play, Detroit's going to just be like, cool, we're just going to run it. And we're not Green Bay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So what are your thoughts about that side of with Dan Campbell?
Yeah, which it's funny because Campbell's first game on the mic, and it was their first game with a pass rate over expectation in this game, with positive pass rate, where Campbell loves to in front of the media, be like, blah, 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 blah. And then he walks out there and just calls the nerdiest game in history, right? 51% play action rates, the 10th highest of Goff's career. They had a 57% motion at the snap rates, the highest they've had in it's the second highest in Campbell's entire tenure there in Detroit. He does all the nerdy stuff. It's so cool.
So they played a ton of 11 personnel.
Yeah, that was the whole I love Khalif Raymond, I need to get him on the field thing. That was very interesting to me.
Okay, but let me throw this out there. You might see that against Philadelphia.
Get the third corner.
We want to get the third corner out there. Mm-hmm. We want to attack him, which Green Bay, for some reasons, no, cool, we're going to throw at Quinion Mitchell the most of anyone. Sorry, I'm not trying to turn this into another complaint about the
Christian Watson wakes up at 2:30 a.m. in a cold sweat with Quinion Mitchell on his mind, dude. So from the playoff game to this game, holy smokes. I have no idea why they're doing it to the kid. It's not a good matchup.
Hey, guys, NFL, don't throw at 27.
Yeah.
The Eagles are desperately, they're just don't, everybody knows. Anyways, whatever. My point is this.
First team All-Pro Quinion, by the way. This season is unbelievable. He's been so good.
I would be interested in seeing if Detroit says, cool, we're going to go 11. We trust our offensive line to win on the ground from those spread looks. And we also want the ability to attack your weakest player, which is Torrey Jackson.
Now, the first thing there to me is the hook. That's my key for the game, looking at this from the Detroit's perspective. You said trust the offensive line on the ground. You got to protect the guards in this game, right? This is where, with
it's a good point. It's a good point.
You have, Christian Mahogany down for the year. So Kaide Wasika takes over at the left guard spot. You have Tate Ratledge, who's been, I think, up and down at the right guard spot. Graham Glasgow got banged up, was able to come back in the game. Tristan Colon took some snaps. Penei Sewell got banged up in this game. And so the Lions' offensive line, from a talent perspective, is lower than it was. They've got a backup in there for Mahogany. And then also some of the starters are banged up, right? We're getting to that point in the season where injuries start to accumulate. Eagles defensive front, right? Which, Jalen Carter had a rough September, did not have a good start to the season, did not seem like he was sharp. Eagles defensive front is, we I don't know if, Jalen Phillips got any hype or what it is, but Davis is having a career year. Carter looks like he did back half of the season. Obviously, Moro Jomo, big highlight play for him, but he's been playing great all season. He's put up Milton Williams numbers. This is what they had. And now you have Jalen Phillips and Nolan Smith back. If you walk into this as Detroit and you say, well, obviously we're going to do the thing where we win the offensive trenches and it allows us to take pace and tempo, get to our play action game, I am not as convinced about that as I often am for the Detroit Lions. And so this, I would like to find some more creative ways to run the football besides like we just inside zone and kill you, because I don't think the interior is able to do that against this front.
The Eagles typically just send 4, but the play where Dean came, right, and it was Phillips was chipped, so Dean was able to come through the A gap. I guarantee you we see that in this game. And we talked about the Shepard's using the cross dog blitzes to get Gibbs in protection. I would not be surprised if we actually see Vic Fangio borrow from that as well, because internal pressure is the name of the game against Detroit. Every Lions game now comes down to, we talked about the guards, can you find a way to go after the guards? And as Detroit did, Detroit. I'm sorry, Minnesota. I said Minnesota.
Yeah. I thought you were talking about the Vikings. I was going to let you get there.
I was mixing up the teams. Okay, sorry.
Yeah.
Minnesota used the cross-dog blitzes on Detroit, kept Gibbs in as a pass protector, hunted him. Fangio, I would not be surprised if we see that. It is so key for them to play the pass on play action when they're capable of, because that's the way that I think Detroit could take advantage of them with those Eagles backers. So it's.
Yeah, I would want to send Bond, not Dean, because Bond's having a little bit of a old man year in coverage right now. Just from a explosiveness perspective, played a lot of games last year. Zach Bond did a lot of snaps. So I want Dean a little bit more in space. But I agree with you on finding ways to get him there and to send the pressure. The Eagles are not as fast of a team in the second and the third level as they like to be, right? Reed Blankenship, even Nakobe Dean, like he's quick, but he's not long speed. So it's a good misdirection day. It's a good Jameson Williams throw the ball fast. Jameer Gibbs throw the ball fast game. See if you can get him in space a little bit.
If you had asked me about this game before Monday Night Football, I would have taken the Lions. I am now taking Philly purely because of what I saw from the Eagles defense in that game.
Yeah.
And the Eagles defensive line in particular. As much as I think Kelvin Shepard is brilliant, and I think he's going to do the things we're talked about, that's playing left-handed a little bit. It's not what Detroit measures in, right? Like, so there's also that aspect as well, even if he has a great game plan, whenever you're asking a team to completely change their tendencies, that can be an issue.
Yeah. This was one of the games I wasn't sure I'm coming in. I think I also lean Eagles. Worth noting, it is a Goff with no roof, potentially in the cold game, right? Goff in his career indoors, 68% completion rate, outdoors, 64% completion rate, outdoors in 50 degrees or cooler, 60% completion rate. Small hands Goff, the Cali boy. This is, it's a legitimate thing. And so I lean Eagles. I will say that there's a little part of me that thinks Dan Campbell is just the best coach in football. And that with him on the mic is such a substantial improvement over John Morton that we're going to see that borne out in like an insane second half of the season for the Lions. And so big test for old Sean McVay with the glasses, Dan Campbell. I'm excited to see it.
I mean, I like the Lions offense better than the Eagles defense generally. It's just, than the Eagles offense. Yeah. Okay. Real quick, we don't have to spend a lot of time on Monday Night Football. It is a stinker. Cowboys at Raiders. This is you. What you got?
Yeah, the name of the game here is the pressure for the Cowboys, right? Cowboys are 32nd in defensive success rate, 31st in knee paper drive. However, they are 10th in team pressure rate as a defense. What they do well is get after the passer, and obviously that is without Quinnen Williams. Now you get potentially the best penetration defensive tackle in football when he's at his peak, joining the pass rush. Everybody can move it on the Cowboys, but Geno's been terrible against pressure this year, right? 33% sack rate is the worst in football, 6.3% interception rate, which is 26th of 41 quarterbacks. Not good at relocating right now. Ends up getting sacked. He's not explosive mover. And then, they don't really have good isolation receivers. So it's not like you can pick your one-on-ones and rip off explosive plays. You get drops, you get bad routes. And, with no Jacoby Myers, like it's hard to find the safety valve, especially if you're able to keep Brock in a protection. And so to me, it's, does Geno get the ball out fast enough against the pressure, or does he let the pressure get to him? That kind of decides it on the offensive side of the ball for the Raiders. It's the only way they hang in this one. So I like the Cowboys.
Yeah, the Raiders' offensive line is
bad and hurt.
Chargers were the worst. Who's worse, the Chargers or the Raiders?
Chargers. Chargers. I offend me deeply. Raiders are just bad.
Yeah, it's pretty bad. The Raiders defense has quietly been playing like way above. I actually think that they've been pretty solid and they're decent against the run, but I just don't like these DBs against these Dallas receivers. I think we see a come in, it's Dallas, it's in Vegas, it's in it's not somewhere. I think he'll be able to attack them.
Potentially DeMarvion Overshown back for this game. He's been activated to practice, which is, as far as linebacker improvement goes, it's from a 0 to a 10. And then also Savon Ravel, who's the rookie corner they selected, who is first career start for rookie corner. Is he going to be great? Probably not. It's better than what they got in the field right now.
Playing.
Yeah.
Tucker, come on. All right. That's it for this week. We're both on the Cowboys then. Ben, very excited for these games. Folks can check out Ben's work at ESPN.com. Follow him everywhere. Benjamin Solak, pretty much everywhere. And I'll be back next week to talk about, we'll be quick on Monday Night Football next week with Dominique. We'll spend more time talking about other stuff. And thank you, as always, to the folks at Omaha Productions, Kirsten Sebecki, Owen Saylor, Jack Foster, Tucker Tashjian, who make this show. Also, check out Viewer Discretion, my podcast with David Dennis Jr., where we are still covering Married at First Sight. I want to talk about the show Pluribus, which is amazing. And then we're going to do Stranger Things. All right. See you guys on Tuesday.